Hey, good morning, folks. We're going to continue working on Spelljammer combat and exploration artwork today. Give me a second here to check my signal. We'll go through my intro, and then we'll get to work here. So checking my signal here real quick. Mic check, mic check. 1, 2, 3. We coming through, buddy? 1, 2, 3. We coming through, buddy? Yeah, we're coming through A-OK. Coolio. Let me see. Let me click some buttons here, and we're going to go through my intro spiel. If you are familiar with my stream already, and if you don't need to hear it again, you're certainly welcome to skip ahead a minute or two. For the rest of us out there that are new to the stream, good morning, stream. How you guys doing? My name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing game supplements. I illustrate them. I publish them online. I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition here for the past 5 years. There's a slew of work that I've already created that are linked down in the description down below. They're all on DMsGuild.com. They all have free previews for you to check out. If you're here for artwork, there's probably about 150 unique illustrations throughout the books that are linked down below. I've got about 100 different titles that have my stock art in them on DMsGuild currently as well. Click open any of those books if you think they're cool. So these free previews, the way that they work is there's an eye icon on mobile phones on the right-hand side. If you're on a desktop or a tablet, there'll be a book cover, and then underneath it says full preview. Click either full preview or the eye icon. It'll throw open a PDF large enough for you to easily read. You can check out the stuff that I have. If you think it's cool, consider making a purchase to help support more shenanigans like this in the future. Let's see, supporting shenanigans. That's what we're talking about right now. So let's shift my windows here. I just posted I'm live on Twitter. So if you're on the Twitter X platform, you can follow me at Phil Kearney, get notifications when I'm live, see first looks at different articles and illustrations and stuff that I've been creating. Best way to support the channel right now is to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. We're climbing to 500 subscribers. Hopefully we'll be there sooner than later. We just want to keep growing the channel so more people can see what it is that we're doing here. So what is it that we are doing here? We are creating a supplement for 5th edition, Spelljammer Combat and Exploration. It is a supplement to the Spelljammer's Adventures in Space that Wizards of the Coast had created and published back in August 2022. Let's see. We're currently at episode, what is this? Episode 275. I made this book cover back around episode 15. So if you check here in the list, there is a full playlist here. You can go back to episode you can go back to the beginning to see where it all began and watch the whole journey through making all the tokens, maps, all the bloody blah that we've gotten up to this point. So when we build a new supplement, we have an idea, we test it out. If it works, great. We'll play test it, make sure that we're seeing any kind of flaws or issues with the ideas proposed. If they work, we'll wordsmith them out. We'll then hire out an editor who will then take the text that we created and turn around and make it word good. And once that's complete, then we'll get it back. We'll build page layouts. So I use Microsoft Word for my layouts. We'll lay the text in. We'll break the text up into ideas. Once those ideas are put in place, we'll have all these gaps in the text that we'll then be able to fill with illustrations. So we'll take a page like this. We'll extract it and drop it here into Photoshop. We then take these blank spaces and we start filling them with illustrations. When all the illustrations are done, we'll pick them back up. We'll drop them all back here into Photoshop or into Word. And once all the images are done and the text is finalized and all the hyperlinks are strung up so you can be floated through the document using hyperlinks, we'll then seal this up into a PDF. We'll publish it on DMsGuild, and we'll have a link available for you guys to click down below. So that's where we're at right now. We're going to just keep building mounted weapons. And like we were talking, hey, Zona, how you doing? Like we were talking last time, mounted weapons are small enough to be operated by one person, but too large to be carried around as a weapon on its own. So they get mounted to whatever structure it is that they are built for. In Descent into Avernus, where mounted weapons came from, that was the harpoon flingers that were mounted to the infernal war machines, and that you drove around like Mad Max trucks and tore each other up in hell. On Spelljammers, the mounted weapons are just built into the railing or a turret or whatever on the spelljamming ship or on a tower or whatever. Like we were discussing last time, they're anti-personnel weapons. Siege weapons are too big to be able to target creatures targets smaller than 50 feet in size if they have cover. And a lot of the all the siege weapons provide cover to their crew. And any kind of railing, or when you're adjacent to a structure, you have you're considered to have partial cover against siege weapons as well. So a siege weapon is only going to get you personally if you are basically out in the open, running across a field or drifting through space where there is no realistic cover for you at all. Then yes, you can be targeted and easily killed by siege weapons. They'll still be a disadvantage to hit you because you're smaller size. So between not being targetable at all and then having disadvantage and then also having some form of cover, you can have all. It's likely you're going to be able to not be hit by siege weapons at the tier of play that your characters are operating at. Like, you'll be able to pick off a villager, sure, but if you're a CR, if you're a 7th level party, you being able to tag a manticore with a siege weapon at disadvantage while it's strafing your ship, you're not likely to hit it. So you're going to need these anti-personnel weapons that don't have any disadvantage other than the penalties that cover would provide to attack individual creatures aboard a ship or in a structure. Excuse me. But they deal significantly less damage. So it makes the experience of fighting with siege weapons most likely going to be siege weapons versus ships and mounted weapons against creatures or individuals on the ship. And that is obviously you can get around that if you want. But then on top of it is the command rules that if it's an NPC that's a crew member aboard your ship, there's the characters are defaulted to be the commanders on the ship, unless stated otherwise, and the commanders can take damage on behalf of the ship and crew. A pilot that's piloting the ship can always take damage for a ship as long as you are you're attuned and actively piloting. And the pilot is the default commander who is in charge of and overseeing siege crews and other crew members that are aboard the ship, unless another creature chooses to take the responsibility of a siege or squadron commander from the pilot. So when you're the commander, you can take damage for anybody that is under your command. So a 6th level fighter with 60 hit points, or maybe 58, 57 hit points, can take as much damage as you can handle for a ballista siege crew member that might only have, say, a commoner has 4 hit points. So you can take that damage, and then your team can heal you, and look at that, you're spending resources like you would in a dungeon, except that everybody's on a ship. So that's fun. That was a much more casual, haphazard way of explaining that than I think I've attempted more formally in the past, but I'm pretty happy with that. So these mounted weapons, they deal significantly less damage. From Descent into Avernus, these are literally just harpoon flingers that are in DIA. They have a 150-foot range. They don't have a long range, so anything beyond, when you're in space, there's no drift. So if you get thrown in a direction, you'll eventually lose momentum over time unless you get picked up in somebody else's gravity field and then get pushed along like comets do. But under normal circumstances, you'll eventually drift to a stop, harpoons off a harpoon flinger, arrows out of a bow, bolts off of a crossbow. Those drift to a stop after an hour of. If they don't hit a target, they'll just free drift in the direction they were shot, and eventually, assuming that they don't hit any more gravity, will just drift to a stop in an hour. If it's a siege weapon like a ballista bolt or a mangonel stone or similar, that will drift to a stop after a day. So it's very possible for you in a war zone to accidentally drift into a cloud of weapons that are still potentially dangerous enough to damage your ship, as a sort of environmental hazard that you could potentially drift into. Can you say drift again, Phil? Drift. Thank you. Let's shorten up that handle a bit. Here, I just want to build this thing. We just want to get the architecture on this weapon good. We want good architecture here, not bad architecture. What's up? Back in AD&D, one of the defenses the palace of Orcus had was mounted bone guns that looked like flat cannons with the spell magic. 12d6 lightning bolts or magic missiles, 20 each. Nice. Nice. That sounds like some decent AD&D. Sounds like some decent 20, like 17 to 20th level type of stuff. I personally didn't. Where is that from? Was that a specific? I mean, that had to be a book, obviously. Hey there, timely timer. I got a 20-minute timer going to make sure I don't fall into any tangents too deeply. You know, I feel like. That's what I was thinking we're talking about. Yeah. I remember that picture. It's all red with a giant demon walking through fire. I remember that book. If I'm thinking of the right one. That was boy, AD&D. That was supposed to be using their the battle system book that they published for the AD&D Mass Combat. That was the official replacement for the old BX Army mechanics, right? Like they weren't in that book, but they were built. But that book was specifically designed to use the Mass Combat system with it, if I'm correct. Yeah. Battle system. There was BX, the original Mass Combat. There was Battle System from AD&D, There was the Miniatures Handbook and Skirmish from 3rd edition. 4th edition was pretty much its own skirmish game, but I don't think they ever came out with mass combat for 4E. I think they were falling I think they fully embraced Dungeon Punk at that point and did away with mass combat for 4E, and then 5E continued to maintain that simplicity of not having an official mass combat system. So that's pretty much when, yeah, I think 3E followers, leadership feat was the last official comment. No, there was the leadership feat, and then the Miniatures Handbook were the last effort, I believe, that Wizards had towards mass combat ever. Hey, this is looking pretty good. I like this machine now. This is looking good. I wanted to do the Eldritch Cannon second because it should be easier for me to illustrate since it has more rounded. It's all spheres and stuff, so it's more organic. God willing, it'll be easier for me to illustrate than this. Let's build a anchoring point here. Just straighten that up. I was observing last night how much less energy and animated my conversations are here in the morning than they are in comparison to the evening, and I believe I have correctly attributed that to the amount of coffee that I've had the chance to inject into my body over the course of the day. So by the time I get to you guys on Mondays and Thursday nights at 7 o'clock, I'm real jazzed up. Like the squirrel from over the hedge, I'm seeing through time and moving at plank lengths. I reference it like a dozen times. Yeah, buy our book. I do that too. It's like, hey, if you're interested in this, you can buy it here. Or like, hey, if you think this idea is cool, this was taken from Spellpoint Warlocks. You should check that book out here. Only difference is that my stuff has free previews, so you can actually go reference that book and look at it while you're online, so that you can stay in the moment of what it is I'm talking about. That's one of the reasons, I mean, other than paying back for the good kindness that was given to me when I was a kid. I talk about this occasionally. I used to, back in the 80s, I would buy my D&D books from sometimes a comic book shop, but I made my purchases mainly at B. Dalton bookstore in the mall, or Walden Books, both of which I believe are defunct at this point. But I would just hang out and read, grab a book off the shelf and go to the kids section where the chairs were, sit down and read a book, have a soda with me, keep the place clean, pick up after myself, pick up any other trash that I found along the way. And the store manager was cool with me being there, because every 3 weeks after I'd get, each book was $12 back in the 80s, 128 pages. It was basically 10 cents per word. Or per page. So 120 some odd pages would be like around $12-13, right? So I'd get paid $5 a week to mow a lawn, and so every 3 weeks I can go in and buy a book. So when my sister would go to the mall, I'd catch with her, hang out, read the next book, or decide which book it is that I wanted by reading them. And if I went back and read the book more than once, then it was going to be on my roster. The more often I read it, the more likely I was to buy it. I also started getting Dungeon and Dragon magazine. My parents were kind enough to get me subscriptions to those on my birthdays. So they'd renew it each year as my birthday gifts. It's like, do you still want these things? Like, absolutely. It's like, okay, great. Easy gift. That, and they'd buy me art books and stuff. really encouraged me. It was very, I will say, as difficult a childhood as I had, my parents were very supportive of me pursuing art because they knew it was a means of me being able to engage my limited vision, and to it was being self-motivated was the best way for me to be able to create tools. So my parents were very wise in recognizing how limited they were in being capable of helping me at all, but all they could do is encourage me to find ways to help myself. So God bless you guys. Thanks a lot for being my parents. I'm going to clip this off. And I think we're going to, yeah, see, this is a decent enough front frame that I can now build the bow arms off of it. So we can drop the opacity down here, and you know, this is all nearly worthless. Let's see if I can distort and skew it in such a way that'll make it serviceable. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to start that over. Battle system. It's a shame I have so many projects on my plate because I'd like to get back to the command system. That's but honestly, I like I said before, I think I've specifically been slowed in that process for that specific supplement. I believe I've been slowed down so that when I'm capable of getting to it, I'll have enough support that I can actually do a Kickstarter for it and have it as a Creative Commons open license sort of thing. Everyone should have these mass combat rules. They're 5e rules. They're pretty damn good. Spelljammer is IP specific, and I honestly prefer working inside of the IP. It's the IPs that inspired me to get involved in the first place. I am a huge Spelljammer fan. Very much a Planescape fan as well. Those were basically the other than Dark Sun, those are the native settings that I used when I was in when I was playing D&D basically since the 90s. Stayed in Planescape until Eberron started making waves, and I jumped on. I was happy to jump on board Eberron. It's a great setting. Shit out of this. There we go. I think that'll do. That'll doodlebug. Let's drop that down a bit. Tears, literally my favorite place ever. The novels for Dark Sun got me hooked. Oh yeah, I only read one, or I think I only read one book from Dark Sun. But yeah, I was in love with the apocalyptic motif that they had there. It was, yeah, Dark Sun was a go-to for us for quite a number of years. I think to make Dark Sun work, you really kind of have to have a lot of like you need to know the you need to kind of know the motives of the Sorcerer Kings, and they have to be I mean they're active in the community in the sense that they're slaughtering people, sacrificing stuff. But I think the assessment that that Dark Sun would be problematic for Wizards, aside from whatever philosophical debate they're having about the setting as a whole right now. I just think that they would have a difficult time being okay with the dark tones that go along with the campaign, the nihilism, the lack of artificial joy. I agree. I think Wizards would have a difficult time with Dark Sun right now, and I'm okay with them just leaving it on the shelf for now. So it's got this like double. It has this double bow arm for the flinger, right? So when we have the icon for that weapon, we have this X in the front as well, and then we have this icon here that represents the Eldritch Cannon. So if we were to go into, are they still on here? Looking for craft. Let's just open it real quick. Spelljammer production. Tokens, ships, craft. Oh, this is an opportunity for me to take a sip. Damn it, loaded too quickly. Fighter craft can have, if they're big enough, they'll have ballistas on them. They'll have harpoon flingers. They could have eldritch cannons, and this is how we're depicting a helm. So. Oh, I did not update the flitter. That's interesting. Hold on. I thought I had this already because I had to update and change them because this doesn't look distinct enough from this at a larger scale. So I figured if I had the forward-facing X formation, that would read more true. So now I have to go in here and fix this real quick. Gear copy, mounted weapons. Perfect. Slide that into space. Drop down. There we go. So there's your arrow. It's a 15 ship. It has a slashing ram for strafing and cutting along a ship that they're buzzing past. A gunner can occupy the same space or be adjacent to the a mounted weapon. So this could have one or two passengers. The pilot could use actions to fire the harpoon flinger, or the pilot can keep its action economy for a lot of maneuvering using a dash action or all the different type of movement actions that you expect in 5e, like disengage, dodge, whatever. And then the and then a separate character could be firing the harpoon flinger. So the pilot making attacks, making melee attacks with the edge. So I'm going to have diagrams basically like and I don't have them yet, but have H flinger here, and then like helm and like slashing ram. I'll have to have a diagram like this for each of the ships. I don't know the format on that yet. That's basically going to be the last thing that we're going to end up doing on this. Once the book is actually done, we'll be able to build like ship character sheets, like for each of the ship to show where the weapons are at and what they are, and then like the basic statistics of each ship to make it quick and easy for folks to use. But this is how we represent the different gear on stuff. And we go over here to the flitter. Flitters are much bigger. So they have here's the helm, here's an eldritch cannon, here's a harpoon flinger, here's a harpoon flinger, and then here is a ballista, and those are on the top deck. And you have a ladder here that leads from the interior of the ship to where the helm is at, blah, blah, blah. There you go. So that's that roughly. Let's put the arrow back on here, hit save, and get this out of the way. So that's where these are coming from. So when you're looking at like if you buy the thing, you get the zip folder. The zip folder has all the Lazaraxis tokens, ship tokens, creature tokens, maps, as well as tokens at different scales, 550, and we'll be building out individual 10 by 10 blocks at the 5-foot scale. It's like a hammerhead ship will have 5 blocks that are 10 by 10 each, so that you can just drop down the segments of the ship that you actually need during the course of combat, instead of having 50 inches of table space for you to drop a hammerhead ship that's going to be like a 5-minute encounter. Fuck that. It's just, you just have the 50-foot token and the 500-foot token for the hammerhead ship, and you can just do ship combat with that. And if you really want to board that ship, or if you really let that ship board you, just whatever chunk of the ship is relevant to the battle is what you can put down on the board. So basically the entire game that we're proposing here, that when you use it, is broken up into basically 10 by 10 grids or less. And you see that throughout the document, and that's basically how we perform the play testing. So, Bob's your uncle. There you go. And I feel like this is off. Free transform. No. We're going to distort. Get that perspective right. I have a dentist appointment on Monday next week, and that means that I'll have my morning stream like usual. And I will and I should have a 2-hour block of time this upcoming Monday. I've got dentist, so I'll have Spelljammer stream like usual. I'll do dentist stuff. I'll have a 2-hour stream for the martial power system, and then I'll bounce out and put in a half day at my day job. So, and then I'll be back Monday night for more Eberron shenanigans. But I am looking forward. I like going to the dentist. I give myself the day off whenever I do doctor stuff, and then I reward myself for performing self-maintenance and care by streaming and doing more artwork. So I'm looking forward to that. I also have a holiday week off. Hold on, let me check my calendar so I can remind myself of what that looks like. Yeah, those look pretty good. Hold on real quick. What's up? So I decided to whip out my old throwing bonus. Yeah, right on that, and give it another glance. And there is a Trask just casually sitting in optional side encounters with the Cavern of Orcus's realm. Yeah, sure. I mean, why not, right? I mean, if you're going to be 75th level, Trask is pretty easy to tear down. Let's see. Okay, so Christmas is the 25th, so I shan't be here. I won't be here on Sunday because I'm never here on Sunday. Monday will be a holiday off for me. I might be. I'm not sure what my Monday the 1st is looking like yet, but so I will have the days off. Basically from the 23rd through the 2nd at my day job. So I won't be around on Monday the 25th, but I have the 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th I have those 4 days off of work, so I'll be able to stream like 3 or 4 hours in the morning on the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th. I can have a lunch stream for like 2 or 3 hours on the 26th through the 29th. And then I can have my night. I won't have night stream on the 25th. I will have night stream on the 28th. So lunch, morning, nighttime 28th, and then Saturday will be morning stream as usual. I don't know what the first looks like. I might be on in the evening of the first. I should be on in the evening of the first. I might have lunch on the first. I don't know what my day is looking like because I don't know what family's doing. So, but I'll have a good chunk of days here that I'll be streaming a lot. So I'm hoping to move forward as much as I can here, and God's willing. It's unlikely, but I've got. Let's see. God's willing, I'll be done with this picture by Monday. And then I've got a ship picture to do, and I have a combat scene to do. I've got 3 pieces left after this. 2 ships and a combat scene. So it's probable that I'll be working on those. I might finish up the combat illustrations by the 27th, and then we'll move into the random system generator, Appendix 1. And that's just for landscape illustrations of surface side terrain or from space looking at planets. So it's possible I can have those done, let's assume by the 5th. And at that point, all we're working on is finishing off how Light as Araxis looks and the tokens for the ship art. So we've got a decent chance of being done with this project maybe by the 18th or 19th. We might be publishing, but I think us publishing in January is very realistic. We've got a good chance of being done before February. If not, it should be like the first week of February. Which I hate saying because, you know, I keep pushing back my calendar a little bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. But we're getting closer, guys. We're legit getting closer to done. I think I need to lower that wheel. Let's pick all of this up. Casual Trask. What's up, buddy? I mean, to be fair, if you're in a 300, you know, if you're in a 200, 250 foot ship with like 5 siege weapons all throwing around like 30 points of damage a pop, that Trask isn't going to stand very much. Is going to stand for long. It could shrug off a lot of that damage, but you could eventually whittle down the Trask to be wishably dead. Where's my music? It's very quiet right now. That's why. We're at the end of the song. Yeah. There we go. Give me some sound, dude. +1 or greater, otherwise it's immune. Ah, yes, yes, yes. That's right. So you're gonna have to enchant your weapons somehow. Very true, my friend. Well, if you want to be serious about being a siege commander, you should really have some martial powers, so that you can dump your strikes in on your shots. Once Martial Powers publishes, and this is published, we can do a bridge book, like however many pages, 5, 10, 20 pages of being a Martial Powers character in command of a spelljamming ship. And then we can do fun stuff like Ravnica in space, or like one of the ideas that I was playing with is Into the Nyx, where the Theros setting is depicted as a wild jammer, wild space campaign. And hold on here, merge those down, hide that, drop this down. Yeah, where instead of it being wild space, it's Nyx that the characters are navigating through. If you're not familiar with Nyx, if you're not familiar with Theros, it's the Greek, the Greek. The word I'm looking for is Greek mythos setting of Ravnica that they converted into a D&D setting a few years ago. No, was it? Yeah, like 4 years ago at this point. Anyway, it's got the 15 different gods sorted by colors. The major gods are single color, and the minor gods are dual colors, like the guilds in Ravnica or Strixhaven. Colleges are two color formats. The 10 minor gods have that 10 color, have that same 2 color format as well. But the afterlife, the astral / ethereal / transition plane from life into death is called Nyx, and having ships flying through the Nyx, fighting with gods and other like space harpies and stuff. I think that's kind of a cool idea. But it's super tangential, like Theros. Of the 3 books, Theros is my weakest by far. I never got into the Theros card sets. I was never into Greek mythos very much. I like Jason and the Argonauts as a movie, okay, but it was just never my go-to at all about anything. Like I never really had any myths, like Norse mythos or anything. None of that really ever appealed to me very much. Minotaurs were cool, centaurs are cool, satyrs are cool. Like all the creatures from Greek myth, I thought were cool. I know that a lot of D&D pulled from that stuff initially. Jason and the Argonauts was cool as shit. The original Clash of Titans was super cool. But never really got junkied into that stuff. Your transform is going to be skew. That feels pretty good. I spy with my eye something that's text. What's up? Oh yeah, the Weatherlight crew. Yeah. The plane, the planescaping ship. I'm super into that. They'll need to flesh out MTG Worlds overall for me to be able to do anything other than like Patreon fanboy stuff. Like when they release a setting, it becomes available for us to create stuff for on DMsGuild.
And while like if you check out Core Artificer, KOR Artificer, he is one of the D&D creators that has a really good reputation, and he is constantly churning out new MTG setting content on his Patreon. But he never got into the color mana idea. He kept it system neutral, which has the broadest appeal. So I certainly don't blame him. But obviously, I'm a lot more involved in mechanics, and so Theros doesn't have a lot of unique mechanics going for it. It hasn't really been an interesting. I mean, other than the 15 gods being, you know, a thing. There, and let's go through transform. But like he put out a new Capenna setting like within like 3 or 4 months of the card set being released as like a 30-page PDF on his Patreon. He's definitely worth checking out. Him and Dice Try. Dice Try here on YouTube. He does color philosophy videos like what's the mentality or the philosophy or character traits of red versus yellow versus white or blue or whatever, and then like if you mix the colors together, what kind of attitude might be appropriate, like a character that's driven by white and red or black and red or whatever. His videos are fantastic. I'm one of his Patreon supporters, so obviously I'm biased, but his philosophy videos are strong enough that I can say he's worth giving money to. His videos are excellent if you're into color philosophy, and I will argue till the sun goes out that the 5 color philosophy is a much stronger narrative tool than the alignment system ever was. And I hope that Wizards figures out someday how to use their IPs together. But until then, I'll just keep building shit. That's what I do. We do what we must because we can.
Okay, that feels better. I think I could be happy with that. So let's fade that down.
Architecture is not easy. That fits nicely. Let's get this up here like that. That fits nicely.
Let's skew this. There. Ah, I think that's sitting pretty.
Now all I gotta do is string it up and we should be okay here. And drop in the spears in the front end. Harpoons, forgive me. And then we can move on to the Eldritch Cannon in the background. There we go. The angles are good. So, those gave me the cool idea, though, enchantments that are so powerful they develop sentience, living enchantments. Yeah, there's Eberron has living spells. I don't know. I think they're constructs now, but in 3rd edition they were oozes. Basically, you assign a spell, and if you touch or enter the space of the living spell, you're affected by whatever that living spell is, and then they can make attacks, and every attack is an instant of that spell. So a living fireball would basically just be a ball of fire that rolls around, and if you touch or get inside its space, you'll take 8d6 damage, fire damage, with a saving throw for half. If it's a spiritual weapon living spell, then it's basically a cloud of hammers that rolls up and attacks you, making an attack roll dealing basically whatever the size of basically the same scaling that we have, d8 multiplied by the number of squares that space occupies. Like if you're here's some of the things that I'm working on right now. But if a hold on. If a living spell occupies a, why are you not? Thank you. If a living spell occupies a large size space, 2 by 2, it's going to do 2d8 damage. If the living spell occupies, like for a spiritual weapon, if the living spell occupies a 3 by 3 space, it'd be 3d8 damage. Anyone that is adjacent to or within the space would take all that damage. This is a work in progress for squadrons, basically providing notation of like the difference between vessels, crafts, and mixed squadrons, where you can have like this is a 50-foot square here with 5-foot squares for these arrow ships, and these are vessel scale, so this is 500 feet with 50-foot squares. So you can have a squadron of 10 scorpions. Each scorpion is a 2 by 2, so you can occupy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these would be a total of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So it'd be a 10 by 10 or 10 square space that these occupy. While these arrows are 3 by 3, so it'd be 1, 2, 3, so it'd be 3, 6, 9. So this would be a 9 square space that this squadron of arrows occupies, and then this squadron of C for craft, 3 ships, 9 squares total, denoted as 1, 2, 3. You can zoom in here. This is still rough, but a mixed squadron would be a scorpion ship of a 2 by 2. Another scorpion is a 2 by 2, so that's 2, 4. And then each of these squares is a squadron of arrow ships that would occupy 1, 2, 3. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. This would be a mixed squad of 7. So it'd be 5 ships or squares of space occupied, 7 squares of space occupied by 5 units. So mixed vessels and craft. This is an easy way for you to be able to depict, like if this is a 500-foot square space, this vessel at the 500-foot scale, you wouldn't see each individual scorpion ship in the space, in this 500-foot space. So we're denoting here that it's a squadron of vessels, 5 ships in the squadron occupying a total of 10 squares per space. And then number one, if we had multiple squadrons of scorpion ships, you'd have 1, 2, 3, etc. Just like here you have C1, 2, 3 to depict the different squadrons of fighter craft arrow ships. So these arrow ships are flying along these scorpion crafts. So you actually have 5 different units inside of this squadron. It's not easy to depict multiple ships. So the way that we generally recommend it is that you just keep, throughout the book we mentioned having like separate little side grids, like little sideboards, a little like 10 by 10 maps, and then you can put ships on those little 10 by 10 maps, either engaging each other in combat inside of that 500-foot square, or just demoting your squadron moving together. So if you're keeping a sideboard of all the different squadrons that are in a combat with you, C1 would have its own little 10 by 10 board, C2 would have its own little 10 by 10 board, C3 would have its own little 10 by 10 board, and it doesn't matter what's inside these sideboards if you're not getting close enough to actually engage these ships directly inside their own space. But as you attack this squadron, like if these scorpions are attacking this arrow ship and it hits it with a siege weapon, right, and then you destroy one of these, these arrow ships, you can then remove that arrow from this particular 10 by 10 space. And so we now know like C2, when you look at the sideboard for C2, you can see this only has 2 ships left. So, and we'll have multiple V, C, and M tokens
depicting the different combinations that you can have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a clumsy way. It's unfortunately just the amount of information that you're trying to pack in about squadrons and fleets in general. I'm still struggling in finding. I'm trying to find a way to make it a little less ham-fisted. It's a little rough, but the scaling, the little side maps is the best way we can. Basically, currently, I can formulate how to express these ships. So these ones are kind of like spirits. Oh, okay. They can bestow themselves upon you, and if you do stuff they don't like, they can leave you and or curse you. Basically, what are those? Do they have are they called something? Oh, the living enchantments, the god enchantments. Yeah. I'm familiar with those. I have plans for that. I have plans for that. They express devotion. In the Magic the Gathering mechanic of devotion is basically however much mana you have on the board of a specific color. Like if you had 3 white creatures, like if you had 3 creatures on the board and it takes a total of say 6 mana, like 2 mana each, to get those creatures out while they're on the board, your devotion to white would be 6. And these living enchantments, they have like if your devotion is equal to 5 or more, transform this enchantment into a creature. So the piety system in Dungeons and Dragons replaces the devotion system from Theros, and so one thing that we can do, it'd be best to talk about this after the mass combat system is published, but basically the more piety you have as a character, the more you can enchant. You can use how to put it, for every point of every 5 points of piety your character has, they can spend an equal number of mana. So if you have 15 piety, you'd be able to expend 3 points of mana to be able to sustain a living a living enchantment as a summoned creature. So you can manifest your god as a 1/1 with 5 piety and 1 point of mana. You can create a 5/5 space, basically a baby avatar, as a summoned creature. If you have 10 points of piety, you can spend 2 mana and have a 10/10 space, all the way up to 50 piety, which is top of the line of the amount of piety you can have at around 20th level, and you can then spend 10 mana to be able to create a creature that's 100 by 100 feet in size, a 10 by 10, 50 by 50 feet in size, a 10 by 10 grid of 5-foot squares. And then you would have to maintain concentration on all of that mana to be able to keep this god presence, and you could have it fighting at the colossal scale. So a high-end Theros campaign could have different clerics, paladins, whatever, summoning these god creatures to be able to fight under your command using the same command mechanics that we use for Spelljammer here. But these, and then you could upscale them further, from 50 feet to 500 feet. So you have these colossal creatures like they depict in the cards of these gods stepping over hills and stuff. Push them up from 500 feet to 1 mile square to 10 mile squares. You can continue upscaling these gods to colossal sizes as you're drifting through the Nyx. You can summon your god to carry you or whatever. Different ideas that we're having, but that's one way to alter the command scaling mechanics. Instead of being ships that your creatures are aboard, you can summon god creatures at these different scales. And of course, it gets more and more difficult to maintain concentration the more mana you maintain. The way that we use mana is that any saving throw that you make, aside from just taking damage and making your Constitution saving throw against half damage like you would expect, there's also any time you make a saving throw, the DC of it is going to be 10 plus the amount of mana that you're maintaining. So if you're maintaining 10 mana to summon these god creatures, your DC on any saving throw you make is 20. So if you have a character that's super weak, has a really low strength, like a 9 strength with a -1 penalty,
and you don't have proficiency in it, if I ding you with like a trip attack and you have to like make a strength saving throw to stay on your feet, if you don't roll a 20 while you're maintaining 10 mana, you dump all your mana. So there's really harsh concentration penalties that we have in the color mana system, because we also let you maintain up to 10 up to 10 mana or 10 levels worth of spells. So you could theoretically maintain haste on 3 separate creatures for 9 mana. But again, your concentration check is going to be a 19 on anything that you do. And you'd have to be 19th level to maintain that amount of mana at once anyway. So it's whatever your max spell level is, the amount of mana that you can maintain at one point. So a 13th level cleric, druid, wizard, bard, sorcerer, warlock would be able to maintain up to 7 mana at the same time. But every single saving throw they make, they have to roll at least a 17, or they're going to dump all that mana. Which is a great thing about the mana pool, because there's so much flexibility on what spells you can cast, and you have so much mana that you'd be able to cast multiple 7th level spells per day at 13th level. Well, you could cast 2 of them per day at 13th level, but you could cast 2 7th level spells. So if you're going to cast a concentration spell at 7th level, you could potentially cast it again before blowing your high magic for the day. But if you're going to use high magic, using that high magic in combat is highly risky. So normally sticking to combat spells that require concentration of 5th level or lower is a lot more reasonable. But still, if it's a dump stat, even maintaining a 3rd level spell becomes highly risky. But when you got 60, 80 mana in your mana pool, you can afford to lose a 3rd level or 4th level spell over and over and over again in combat, because you have the mana supply to be able to cast it over and over and over again. So it's technically a pretty strong nerf to casters, but they get the battery supply to be able to recast. It's just going to cost them action economy to sustain that spell over again if they really want to have it cast again. Obviously, this is going to encourage high tactics to protect your mana supply, or build your action economy more around instant or non-sustained effects. And our druid, our 20th level druid, using this system, she's constantly weighing, like reminding the team, look, I have to maintain 16 mana. I have to maintain 6 mana to do this. And like dexterity and intelligence are her dump stats. So if she gets hit for dex stuff, she's fucked. If she gets hit for intelligence stuff, she's fucked. So she's constantly reminding the team, look, I'm maintaining, a DC 16 to keep you guys buffed right now. So if you guys wade into battle like this, chances are we're going to lose those buffs. So what do we want to do here? Like, it's great. It's a very self-regulating approach. It's I am personally very, very pleased that this is the kind of, like, 20th level characters are powerful, but when you make them eat consequences like that all the time, and they're getting swapped for 30, 40 points of damage a pop. So she's making DC 15, 16 Constitution saving throws, and she only has like a 16 Constitution. She has the Warcaster feat, so she gets to roll those with advantage. But still, she's a druid. She doesn't have, Constitution is not one of her proficiencies. So she basically has a +3 bonus with advantage against DC 15 or 20. She loses concentration a lot, unless they're really crackerjack about their tactics and positioning to keep her from being targeted. And then, the Ranger still has the same problems, because he's maintaining a lot of different buffs, and the Rogue, our Arcane Trickster, also is like constantly using invisibility or gaseous form or pass without trace, all sorts of stuff. And these are expensive, and strength and wisdom are his dump stats. So he's constantly being hit. He picked up the cunning wisdom or whatever, so he has proficiency in wisdom now, but still it's a -1 penalty. So a -1 penalty at advantage against like a hold person spell is almost guaranteed to dump his mana. So they're constantly under awareness that, yeah, we're going to lose mana like all the time. We're constantly going to lose concentration on stuff. So the power system that lets him lock his concentration, that's really useful when he's doing combat stuff. But druids, they can't lock concentration on spells. So they're always, but they have they have 80 mana at 20th level, so they have this massive mana pool. And they can get 10 back on a short rest using, she's a land druid, so she has the arcane focus. So she can get mana back that way. So she basically has actually 90 mana per day. So me knocking out 5 or 6 mana at a time to whittle down her mana pool is totally fair game, because it's only going to take an action for her to fire the spell up again. But it's eating her action economy and, again, the mana resources. So I can whittle down their pool during the course of a normal combat day fairly easily. It's actually pretty cool. So yeah, there we still have to do the strings, and the strings will lead back to here, like this, and this. So we have the shuttle. Let's get rid of those strings. Add this. This is what this handle does. It connects the strings. So all you have to do is basically pull it back and then let go of it, and it'll snap forward again. So you can pull the handle and drop in. Like, this is all you have to do is pull the string back and then drop a harpoon into the loading chute here. So the next thing I need to do is to pick the harpoons. So we're going to drop this down, and then we're going to be back. On board with spears. Just the tip. What's up? Geek the Mage first. Shadowrun, man, for the victory. Ah, man, I haven't played Shadowrun since 2nd edition. I was always a back in the 90s when I played it. I was a big junkie of the physical adepts, like, you know, using magic to enhance movement and stuff as opposed to cybernetics. I was never really into the street samurai. It was always physical adepts. Like, that was my jam. Until I got into Ghost in the Shell, at which point I was like, the reason, like 100% what is it, android bodies, what's the word, it's prosthetic, thank you, prosthetic bodies. Shadowrun could have prosthetic. I don't know if Shadowrun at this point has them, but a Ghost in the Shell version of Shadowrun would basically have a prosthetic body as a rigger. Right, you're piloting that body with your sentience. That to me feels so. That always felt like a rigger to me. Like with the development of drones, I always go back to, boy, Shadowrun was really on point with that stuff. I would love to have a Ghost in the Shell style campaign as Shadowrun, where Street Samurai and riggers were like the assumed, and then there was enough tech in Ghost in the Shell that you could realistically have a hacker constantly doing stuff during combat to take out, like, people's eyes if they have synthetic eyes, or to disable drones, or to take control of them for minions. It's I think it's interesting how they separated decking from rigging, but it really is the same thing. I don't know if they ended up consolidating those two things in the later editions as drones and cybersecurity became more of an actual thing in life to have as a frame of reference. But that was, as far as I can tell, I don't know much about the cyberpunk role-playing game. It always felt too GURPSy to me, for lack of a better word, I guess. I should probably make these things smaller. Doink, doink. Let's thin that down a bit. Perfect. How are we doing on time? 7:30? Okay. Is it 7:30? I'm gonna reset my clock. I've got about 18 minutes left in my day, so I better plan accordingly. There we go. I can make 3 or 4 spear tips in 20 minutes. The only thing that didn't count for was Wi-Fi. Adepts are absolutely busted. Yes. Also, if you look deep into the lore, Shadowrun is on the Simpsons level of being able to predict the future. Yeah. Yeah, the Simpsons had some sort of special magic, man. I used to watch The Simpsons all the time. Loved them during the 90s. Unstoppable. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, I should be able to make spears. Like 3 spear tips in 20 minutes, right? 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 I need to snug them up a little bit more, though. Like, let gravity be a thing. Oof, and that one's a little too chubby. Yeah, that seems better-ish. Let's give these a bit of a tilt like that. Just erase the end there. Here. I don't know, man. Starting to question. Excuse me for a second. I gotta throw some more wood on my fire before it goes out. Making fire. Beep, 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 beep. That block. Take another block, and we'll build a ranger. Keep that going for a couple hours. That should fire up here in a minute. There we are. I'm back. I got this. I got this great. Where am I? I got this great kindling. It's like little sticks. Just stick them in. I just stick them in the fire into the coals, and they catch, and they go up, and then they catch all the other logs. They're really useful. And otherwise, I use paper bags as kindling, or Starbucks napkins, whatever I got going on. Yeah, it's already catching. Yay! Let's take another sip of coffee. And count 4. Wi-Fi. All right, so goes like that. Now that all the individual components work, I can start fusing them together into one shape. There we go. Feels good, and that also feels good. So, yeah, right on, my guy. And you have a great day too. Thanks for the conversation, man. I'll be done here in about 10 minutes as well. So it looks like we're going to be successful in getting the line art down. It'll still be a little rough, but it'll be serviceable for us to lay in color underneath it and merge it together. See, it doesn't look too bad at the scale of reading. So when we come back tomorrow, we'll be working on the Eldritch Cannon. Doing the same thing, doing the line art. I suspect that's going to go much quicker because there's less, how do you say, moving pieces with the Eldritch Cannon. That feels pretty good. There it goes. Just caught fire. Whoomp. Here comes the rage. You probably can't hear it. Swing my microphone out there towards the fire, just a couple feet away from it, see if you can hear it now. Maybe. I'll check back later to see if you could or not. Holy crap! You can see the fire through my pocket here. Look at that fire burning down in the corner. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's literally how close the fire is. It's like within 5 feet. I love that. That is so great. I normally block it, but that's cool. How does that work? Anyway. You guys know what fire looks like. This isn't perfect, but it doesn't need to be because it's going to be behind this railing. Cheat the system by a big barrel. I mean, we could like make a frame sort of thing that curves down and then latches onto it, but I think just this cylinder, this drum approach, I think is good enough. Like it needs to be, it's heavy enough that it's going to stay put, you know? It's not hollow, so that space is taken up. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. Not a bad piece of machinery, man. I think we're doing pretty good here. Derp. All right, we got 8 minutes. It's 7:49 right now here in Seattle. I got about 10 minutes. We should be able to blend this, no problem. It's rough. We're looking rough and ready here because I'm in a hurry. So I'm being real careless with my precision here on these lines, but I think we're going to be okay. Also be a little bit behind some railing here.
So that's what we're looking at for the harpoon flinger. Feeling pretty good about that. Well, obviously we'll need to add the strings, which we will do once the image is once we actually colorize it. The last thing we'll do is add those strings in. But it'll be like that. Very simple. This is great. I'm really happy with this, and I don't want to fully erase this stuff down. I'm going to get rid of that, but I don't want to erase all this stuff yet because I'm not sure if we're going to adjust where the rail is. But obviously this drum is absolutely going to be blocking the leg there, so that's appropriate. So when we come back tomorrow morning, we will be working on the Eldritch Cannon. We're going to leave this be for now. I'm going to do the Eldritch Cannon the same. Perfect timing. Perfect. Actually be able to cut and paste this drum and drag it over here, or I could just drag this Eldritch Cannon, overlay the image that we did here, and be able to flesh that out. But either way, we'll Eldritch Cannon tomorrow. What is that? Wednesday. With God's grace, we'll be done. We could actually get the Eldritch Cannon is a more simple machine than what the Harpoon Flinger there is. So with God's grace, we'll have it done tomorrow. If not, by Thursday, we'll start colorizing on Thursday or Friday. And then probably not be finished with it. Probably on Monday, maybe Tuesday. About what we were expecting. And then we'll move on to the next illustration. So that's it for now, guys. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Normally, I'd have more Martial Powers design work, but my week is a little scuttled at the office, so I won't be back in to work on Martial Powers during lunches until Friday. So we'll be back tomorrow morning, Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday lunch, and then Saturday morning. On Saturday morning, we'll actually start the Robo Belt, the Ravnica Robo Belt Crawl playtest content that we have for Martial Powers. So stay tuned for that stuff. If you think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. We're here 6 days a week, 9 times a week. And I will see you guys on the other side. Thanks a lot.